Hello, beautiful souls. Thank you for watching this video on conscious divorce and my experience with it. Currently, we're in my spa. I do skincare. That's my profession. That's one of my passions. I have a spa in my basement. So if you're ever in South Jordan, Utah, come find me. My spa is called Dialyn, Healing Skincare, where I do healing natural treatments and help people with their skin. But today's topic is really just a raw topic. I don't have any makeup on. That's intentional. It's Labor Day today. I've just been at the pool with my son. Really aware of a deep sadness that I haven't been quite able to escape from. And I wanted to do a little video about it and talk about my experience with conscious divorce and why I think it's much better than the alternative, which is to hate your ex and get in a giant fight and have them be your enemy. The truth is that we married this person because we loved them the most out of anyone that we'd met up until that point. And when we go through divorce, it's so painful and so sad, but that's the person that we love the most. So the old way is really just hating that person and fighting with that person and trying to take everything that you can from that person. And the technique that I used that was really beautiful and helpful for me was conscious divorce. You can actually find my attorney, Michael Katungo, great. He's actually got a YouTube channel called Conscious Divorce, and you can just look him up online, consciousdivorce.com, Michael Katungo. He was great. And essentially he's a lawyer and he mediated our conscious divorce. So I was married for 10 years to someone I loved and still love very deeply. He's a wonderful person. He's been a great friend to me and a great co-parent throughout this process. And that's why I want to talk about conscious divorce today, because my heart is so sad. Still, it's been a couple of years since we went through our divorce. We got married in 2007, and then we kind of went through a slow separation, and then our divorce was finalized last year. And it's been really, really hard. But not as hard as a divorce where he would hate me or I hated him. That never happened. In all actuality, we had just complete love and respect for each other, and ultimately love for our child, who is our number one priority. And whatever was best for him was pretty much what we did in our conscious divorce. So as we went through the conscious divorce process, going into it, when we realized our marriage wasn't working, going into it, we decided to get a divorce. And I proposed the idea of a conscious divorce to my ex. He was very open to it, and he talked to Michael, who was our lawyer, and we decided to go for it. So Michael mediated us, and the goal that Dave and I had going through our divorce was whatever is best for our son, we will do. So if that meant one of us taking the short end of the stick, oftentimes it was him who took the short end of the stick, because he really was amazing, but our goal was just whatever is best for our child. So I wanted to just give a little bit of a background about my story and talk a little bit about what conscious divorce is and why it's different than a traditional divorce. So he and I did not both get attorneys. We just had Michael, who was substantially cheaper than us getting our own attorneys. So when we actually finally went through the divorce, we were both able to walk away with money because we hadn't wasted it on attorneys. And we were both able to walk away with a friendship because we hadn't wasted it fighting over who gets what. We just divided the assets as best we could and tried to do our best going through it and tried to cause the least amount of trauma that we could to our child. I will say in this moment, completely raw, that I really do take the majority of the blame for my divorce. Going into my marriage, I was so happy. I loved the man that I was going to marry. I had seen him in a picture when I was 10. He was my brother's friend. And I was like, I'm gonna marry him. And he just never paid attention to me. He was 4 years older. And then at some point, he looked at me differently. And we ended up dating, and we ended up falling in love and getting married. And I was so happy. But before that, really, I had depression and anxiety that I wasn't really aware of. That was just my normal, natural state of mind. And I also had complex PTSD. I'd had some things happen in childhood that had really scared me and had disconnected me from myself. And I was just living in defense mechanisms rather than really living in my true, authentic self. And those things just started to come up. Marriage will do that. And his reaction to that was to be kind and to just give me whatever I was asking for. But the truth was that I was really needing him to just listen to me and to have deep, meaningful conversations. But he just wasn't well equipped to do that. And when we would start to have these conversations, instead of me staying patient and talking to him about my needs, I would just get frantic and yell at him and be like, why aren't you listening to me? And so he would just try to give me more and more and more, and I would just take and take and take, and it was never enough. So that was really the truth of my marriage. And I got to a point where I just said, I'm not happy. And he just felt like he'd stayed long enough and he'd fought hard enough, and it just wasn't going to work. And so we went through with the conscious divorce. And there were several points when I went back to him and I'm like, hey, look, I'm sorry. I realized I have all these deep pains and I'm working with a therapist and I'm getting them resolved. And he just said, it's too late. It wasn't working. And he moved on. And I actually didn't. I kind of stayed stuck in this deep place of sadness and regret over a million things. And so here I am with my marriage in the past, living alone, not really finding what I'm looking for because I'm still healing. The solution for me wasn't to jump into another relationship. It was really to go in and heal all these deep wounds and these demons that I'd had and had been allowing to kind of exist in me, rather than to heal them before I had to heal them now. And I don't ever want to go through a divorce again. It was so painful. And even though I had a conscious divorce and it was a best case scenario, in many ways, it still really hurt. And it's a pain that I've been trying to get through, but it just keeps coming in waves and waves. And you hear that time will heal these wounds, and it does get better, but it's still just very, very painful to think back on the love I had for him and to have that be different now. And my son will go on vacations with my ex and his girlfriends, and I won't be there, and it's just sad. It's just a sad thing. It's sad to experience. So conscious divorce means that we take the road less traveled. But my intention and hope is that this becomes the new norm, that we get out of the cycles of hating your ex-husband or hating your ex-wife and just trying to take everything you can from them and to hurt them and to destroy them, but rather have the perspective of, this is one of the people that I've loved the most in my life. When I married this person, I meant it. And I am going to treat this person with love and respect. And I'm not going to hurt this person any more than I already have. And so with conscious divorce, we just basically take the high road as much as we can. And oftentimes that means that one of us takes the short end of the stick. Oftentimes it was my ex. He really did give me a lot in our marriage and in our divorce. And that's why it's so important to marry a good, quality, kind person. Because when stuff like this happens and you never expect it, but when stuff like this happens, you can actually have it not be so horrible. So we agreed to have one lawyer who mediated everything for us. And We both walked away with a lot more than we would have if we had gotten attorneys, and we walked away still with a good relationship and a good co-parenting relationship. And we just moved on, and we ended up actually moving states. We moved from California to Utah because it was a better life for our child. And when my ex approached me and said, hey, do you want to move to Utah? And I said, no. He's like, well, we agreed as we were going through this process that we would do whatever was best for our child. And I think that Utah really will be the best possible upbringing for him because we have family here and support and a lot of kids for him to play with. And it's actually been a wonderful blessing. I'm so glad we moved here. I'm so glad for the wise soul that my ex is, because he did have the foresight to say, I think that this will be a good life for both of us. And so we moved to Utah, and we moved together. We put everything from both of our places into a moving truck and moved to Utah together. And I actually stayed with him for a week while my house kind of finished the closing processes. It was, and still is, so hard. And I listen to healing vibrational frequencies for my heart every day, and I lay underneath my LED light and I just pray that it will get better. And my whole body floods with fear and terror and anxiety, and all of the old wounds that I hadn't resolved come to the surface, and I've got to deal with all of this emotion. And it's been super intense, but at every point he's been there for me as a friend, and the most important thing is he's really been there for my child, and he's an excellent dad and a wonderful support system for so many, and I'm really grateful for him. So as we went through a divorce, I still cry almost every single day. We started our separation about 4 years ago. And again, I take full responsibility, but it hits me every single day still, where I need to release it. I need to weep. I need to get this pain out. And finally, I'm at a point where I realize it's been long enough. I've watched so many YouTube videos on how to heal heartbreak, how to move on, how to let go. I'm finally at a point where the pain is just starting to diminish ever so slightly and ever so slightly. And every day, it's different every day, but overall it's getting better. So I would advise, if you are seriously thinking about getting a divorce, that you talk to a conscious divorce attorney first. I completely recommend my divorce attorney. He has a YouTube channel, Conscious Divorce. His name is Michael Katungo. You can find him online at consciousdivorce.com. He's great. He'll do a free consultation and talk to you about your situation. But as you go through the process, if you do end up going through it, know that there's a better way available to you, and that you can choose, if possible, to have the pain not be as horrific as it was. And I can't even imagine if my ex hated me throughout this process and just wanted to hurt me and tried to lie and take as much as he could from me. It just wasn't like that, and it still sucks. So if you are watching this and you've watched this to this point, know that there is another way. There's a better way, and I will go into some more videos and really talk about this in more detail and talk about some of the strategies that I've used that have really helped. Also, just kind of a silver lining to this whole process is, I mentioned before that I do healing skincare. Well, the deep, deep pain that the divorce just triggered in me shifted me on the deepest level. And I started really being able to connect with people on so many levels because of this deep pain that I went through. And because of that deep, deep pain, I am actually able to feel feelings that are much better on the other side of that. So it's going to be okay. Time will heal this. There's a better way, and I hope you find it. And if you have any comments or you want to talk about it, just put a comment in the comment section and I'll get back to you on it and kind of let you know my experience. And I'd love to know your experience if you've gone through a conscious divorce. and how the experience has been for you. And I wish you all the best, and know that I am sending you so much love through this process. And when all is said and done, we're here to experience a fullness of emotion, and I'm feeling it. I'm going through it. So I trust that there's a purpose and a plan, and that there is a divine creative source energy that's merciful and full of grace. And I rely on that every day. And I'm sending you all again so much love and so many prayers of joy.